want to talk a little bit about the Georgia Senate runoff elections that are scheduled to occur here on December 6th. And that is the election that will determine our second senator. Jon Ossoff continues for another 4 years. And Reverend Raphael Warnock, because he was serving the unexpired partial term of the person who he succeeded, he had to run for a full term this year. And the race ended up with his challenger, the fool named Herschel Walker, former football liar, violent man, Herschel Walker, a world-class liar, right up there with Trump. And it's really amazing to see. Trump always picked, what did he say, the best people? He picked people that, first of all, he could dominate. And Trump, being a racist son of a bitch, one of the worst racists in the country, picked a black man here in Georgia because Trump understands that this particular black man can be dominated because poor old Herschel Walker has spent his whole life being told what to do by white people. And Trump loves that. You know, Trump is the type of white person who, if slavery had not been abolished, Trump would have a whole goddamn cadre of slaves working for him. That's just Trump. So he picked Herschel Walker, and Herschel Walker, being an ignorant fool, agreed. So all the money from the white people who run the Christian Terrorist Party, all the money came in to pump up Herschel Walker in an attempt to defeat Senator Warnock, who has done one hell of a good job in 2 years representing this state. Now, I don't doubt that Herschel Walker is going to go back to whatever the fuck he was doing before Donald Trump picked him. Maybe he was running that 8-person chicken factory that he said employed 800 people. I don't know what Herschel Walker did. Maybe he just didn't exist. Maybe he used that little phony plastic sheriff's badge to flash at people when he was pulling into the QT to get some gasoline. I have no idea what Herschel Walker did. Herschel Walker doesn't know what he was doing. This is an ignorant fool. An ignorant fool. But the race between Senator Warnock and the fool Walker was billed as one of the most consequential races in the country. And now, here we are, thanks to white people money, thanks to Christian terrorist money, Raphael Warnock has to defeat this son of a bitch in order to maintain his position as one of Georgia's senators. And I think he will. But they wound up in a virtual dead heat. Each of them gathered about 49% of the vote, although Warnock had a little bit more, 49.7, and I think Walker had 48.6 or 48.3 or something like that. But the rules here in Georgia, all the rules written by white people, by the way, the rules here in Georgia say, well, you have to get 50% of the vote plus one vote, or however it works, in order to win an election. If you wind up with 49.9% and your opponent winds up with 49.6%, and a third-party candidate, as we had in this last election, winds up with 0.8%, well, then it has to go to a runoff. Because the guy who won the election didn't win by enough. How's that, huh? So we had a libertarian asshole down here, Chase Oliver, who had no business doing anything except whatever libertarians do now, and be like Rand Paul and talk about how the election was stolen or this other horse shit, or support Russia, or, libertarians are closet fascists to begin with. But Chase Oliver captured 2% of the vote, which has forced this senatorial election into the runoff. So the election will be December 6th. Our Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who won re-election in the midterm, said, quote, there will be a runoff. And I asked the voters to come out and vote one last time, end quote. He had a press conference 2 days ago here in Georgia. Now, control of the United States Senate may hinge. It depends on what happens in Nevada and Arizona. But it may hinge on who wins this Senate race, just like it did 2 years ago when John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock surprised the shit out of the whole country and both won as Democratic senators here. So here in Georgia, we're bracing to once again become the epicenter of this fucked up political universe. How did that happen? Georgia? Huh? I've been here for 50 goddamn years, right? And Georgia, most of the time I was here, was just, a Democratic state. And when I say Democrats, I mean, these were Christian Democrats, which means they would vote in favor of certain Democratic policy points, but for the most part, they were assholes. And of course, all that changed. And now we have Republican assholes who run the state. So again, in most states, election winners are determined by plurality. Whichever candidate gets the most votes. Shouldn't it be like that? But in 10 states, and most of them are, here's a big surprise, in the South. Something starting to come clear here. 10 states, most in the South, which includes Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Texas, have some form of this runoff bullshit in their primary races. Georgia is the only state that has runoffs for general elections, which is what we're now in. Now, part of that, of course, was to keep those pesky black folk from getting behind a black candidate back in the day. And, oh, Lord, have mercy. What if 2 white people ran and a black person ran and the white people split their vote, say, and let's say the 2 white candidates both got 30% of the vote each and the black candidate got 40%. Good Lord, hallelujah, then the black candidate would win. Well, we can't let that shit happen. Not white folk in the South. Oh, hell no. So we came up with this system. You got to get 50% plus 1 vote. Even in the general election. Even the assholes in Alabama and Mississippi and Texas didn't set it up as strictly and as racist as the Georgian white people did. But that's what we have. So this is only the 3rd time in the modern era, which goes back to what? Beginning of this century, I don't know. I mean, the beginning of the 20th century, that partial control of government in Washington rests on what happens here in Georgia. Oh, God damn. I mean, that's scary. I've lived here for 50 years. Trust me. That's scary. So, back in January 2021, those 2 Senate candidates, Warnock and John Ossoff, beat their Republican opponents in a pair of Georgia runoffs that gave Democrats a razor-thin majority in the Senate, thank God, and therefore control of Congress. Now, back in 2008, the Republican senator and racist pig fucker, Saxby Chambliss, Saxby. Yo, Saxby, what's up? Saxby beat his Democratic opponent, which denied Democrats in 2008 the 60-seat supermajority in the Senate when Barack Obama had first become president. Yeah, the Georgia white people are not going to allow that to happen. Oh, fuck no. Vote for Saxby. Otherwise, the Negro president will have too much power. Now, this runoff election that occurs December 6th is going to be different from the last 2 because the time between the general election and the runoff election has been shortened from 9 weeks to 4 weeks. And that is a result of this controversial bill that was passed here in Georgia, the election law. It was called SB 202. So millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in a Senate race that already set a spending record is going to continue. to be spent on more of these goddamn irritating, absolutely mind-fucking television ads that every single television station in the state will be carrying wall to wall, border to border. That's all you see anymore. Well, no, that's not true. Political ads and all kinds of chemical horseshit sold by the pharmaceutical industrial complex that is designed, if you're not careful, to fucking kill you. You know, they'll say, take this for your failing kidneys, although be careful because it's also going to give you a heart attack. So you'll die of a heart attack with functioning kidneys. I mean, it's such bullshit, but I digress. The executive director of a progressive grassroots organization, her name is Hillary Hawley. She said in a statement provided to Yahoo News that I managed to glom up, she said this, quote, Georgia knows how to win a runoff. Robust organizing and field operations in every single region of the state, end quote. That's true. And that's something that progressives, Democrats, liberals, black folk, minorities, however you want to identify us, that's something that we have to do 10 times more diligently than the white Christian demons. The white Christian demons, and this is true not just in Georgia, but the white Christian demons have a built-in power structure. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it can't be avoided. That's another reason they don't want critical race theory being taught, because if the whole country woke up to understand how built in the white power structure is and how it is immovable until such time as whites become a majority minority, then maybe there can be some progression toward equal justice. But where was I? I get so sidetracked. Anyway, Hillary Hawley says that it doesn't make any difference that we know how to win a runoff. A runoff is nevertheless draining for everybody involved. For campaign teams that have been working long hours for 2 years now, it means that the final push, in this case, to get Reverend Warnock reelected, they have to go into overdrive. They got to find the energy somewhere. And voter fatigue, too. There's voter fatigue. Runoffs are costly for state election boards that have to bear this the brunt of an exhaustive process conducting an election, especially in this era when the Christian demons are out here like cockroaches running around with their fucking guns and their Bibles and their bullshit and their lies and their deception, letting the world know, hey, we're going to just be out here to make sure it's done fairly. Oh, go fuck yourself. You're no more interested in a fair election than I'm interested in joining your cult. You know what they're there for. Now, voters in these runoff elections historically are typically, they're older people, they're whiter, and they're more conservative. And of course, we all know that runoffs generally have lower turnout than the general election or the primary election. However, here in Georgia this time, I will guarantee you. Oh, now, come on, Malloy, be careful. Remember, I just spent 6 months guaranteeing my listeners what was going to happen, and then it didn't. So let me restate that. My hope is that conscious white people and black folk who would never allow a fucking chump fool like Herschel Walker be out there in front so that the white racists could say, if he were made senator, see, that's why we don't want no black senators. Look at this asshole. But he'll do what we tell him. Black folk in this country have come too far for that shit. They really have. And the only reason Herschel Walker came so close in this election is because of the millions of white people who would vote for a fucking tree stump if they thought it was going to own the libs. They don't give a fuck about Herschel Walker or black justice or equal justice. These white people here in Georgia, yeah, come on, give me a fucking break. You know what they really are concerned about? The continuation of their dominance. If that means putting a little rubber-headed fool like Herschel Walker in as a senator, they don't give a shit. Yeah, let's vote for Herschel. Jesus Christ. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.